Cold doesn't just bite in war. It chews, it gnaws. It seeps into your bones and turns strong men into shivering statues. On the frozen fronts of World War II, staying warm wasn't about comfort. It was survival. And while tanks and rifles get the glory, one of the most powerful survival tools was hiding inside a soldier's boots. Socks. Not just any socks. A simple, clever system that kept feet warm, dry, and functional for weeks at a time. This is 0 Hour World War II, and today we're diving into the low-tech genius that helped armies march through ice, mud, and misery without losing their toes. Layering that saved lives. Soldiers quickly learned that one thick sock wasn't the answer. 2 lighter layers worked better. A thin inner sock, usually wool or a wool blend, pulled moisture away from the skin. Over that went a thicker outer sock for insulation. This combo trapped warm air while keeping sweat from soaking the foot. Why did that matter? Because wet feet in freezing weather are a one-way ticket to frostbite. Once moisture builds up, heat drains fast. The double-layer trick created a buffer zone. Sweat moved outward, warmth stayed in, feet survived. Armies that figured this out early saw fewer cold weather injuries, fewer hospitalizations, more soldiers staying in the fight. That's not fashion. That's battlefield science. Wool was the real hero. Cotton kills in the cold. Soldiers learned that the hard way. Cotton holds moisture like a sponge and stays wet. Wet fabric equals cold feet. Cold feet equal damaged tissue. Wool, on the other hand, insulates even when damp. Its fibres trap air, and air is what actually keeps you warm. That's why military supply chains pushed wool socks hard during World War II, especially for troops fighting in Europe's brutal winters and in mountainous terrain. Some soldiers even swapped gear or traded rations just to get extra wool pairs. That's how valuable they were. When your toes are on the line, priorities get real simple. Here's where the secret hack really kicks in. Soldiers were trained to rotate socks constantly. 1 pair on the feet, 1 pair drying, sometimes a 3rd pair stored as backup if supplies allowed. Whenever troops halted, even briefly, socks came off. Damp pair hung on a pack near a fire, or even tucked inside clothing to dry using body heat. Fresh, dry pair went on immediately. This wasn't optional. Officers pushed foot inspections and sock discipline hard, especially after early campaigns showed how trench foot and frostbite could wipe out entire units without a single shot fired. Dry socks weren't a luxury. They were standard operating procedure. Sleeping with socks inside your clothes. Here's a gritty trick straight from the field. At night, soldiers often slept with their damp socks inside their shirts or under their armpits. Body heat would dry them out by morning. Not glamorous, not comfortable, but effective. Imagine waking up, pulling on a pair of socks that are at least dry instead of frozen stiff. That small win made a huge difference in morale and mobility. This method worked especially well when fires weren't possible due to enemy observation. No flames, no smoke, just body heat doing quiet, steady work. Foot powder and grease for extra protection. Warmth was only half the battle. Skin had to stay healthy. Soldiers used foot powder to reduce moisture and friction. Less rubbing meant fewer blisters. Fewer blisters meant fewer infections and less chance of being pulled from duty. Some troops also used grease or protective ointments on their feet. This created a moisture barrier and helped prevent skin cracking in extreme cold. Combined with dry wool socks, it formed a basic but powerful defence system. During World War II, military manuals really started to emphasise daily foot care routines. Wash when possible, dry thoroughly, change socks, powder, relace boots properly. It might sound simple, but, in freezing mud under enemy fire, discipline is absolutely everything. Boots and socks, well, they worked as a team. Socks alone just couldn't do it. Boots had to actually allow for circulation. Tight boots, they cut off blood flow, which makes feet colder, no matter how good the socks are. Soldiers were taught to keep boots snug, but not crushing. Loose enough for toe movement, tight enough to avoid rubbing. That balance, along with layered wool socks, created a sort of microclimate inside the boot. Warm air trapped, moisture managed, blood still flowing. Some units even stuff spare cloth or paper between boot and sock for extra insulation in extreme cold. Improvised, yes. Effective, also yes. Why this mattered more than you think. Cold weather injuries were a serious threat in World War II. In some campaigns, more soldiers were sidelined by frostbite and trench foot than by bullets. When feet fail, armies stop moving. When armies stop moving, battles are lost. This sock system helped keep divisions mobile through snow ice and endless mud. It protected not just comfort, but combat power. Every dry, warm foot meant one more soldier able to march, dig, fight, and survive. So, while history books talk about generals and grand strategies, down in the trenches, victory often started with something as humble as a properly dried pair of socks. Simple, smart, battle-tested. That's the beauty of it. No advanced tech, no secret materials, just understanding moisture, insulation, and human discipline. Soldiers passed these tricks to each other, reinforced by training and hard experience, and the lessons still hold up today. Hikers, mountaineers, and cold-weather workers use the same principles. Layering, wool, rotation, drying with body heat. What worked in World War II still works on a frozen mountainside right now. Not bad for a boring piece of clothing. Stay sharp and keep learning. If this changed the way you look at something as basic as socks, you're exactly why this channel exists. War history isn't just dates and maps. It's real human problem-solving under pressure. Hit subscribe for more 0 Hour. World War II deep dives, share this with someone who loves military history, and drop a comment about what everyday item you want us to break down next. Because sometimes the smallest gear made the biggest difference.